Have you ever watched a leader change without announcing it? Nothing dramatic, no big speech, no public fallout. But suddenly, the questions feel sharper. The room feels tighter. Decisions get pulled upwards. People stop offering ideas. And little by little, the team starts shrinking around the leader. When a leader loses trust in the team, it doesn't just damage the team. It slowly damages the leader as well. And by the end of this video, I want to show you something really important. This is usually not just a team problem. It is most definitely an inner leadership problem. Hello, my name's Pietro Pazzi. I'm a leadership depth coach, and I work with senior executives who want to transform their leadership from the inside out, addressing the whole person and not just performance. In this video, we're going to look at what really happens when trust starts to break down between the leader and their team. We look at the disappointment that often starts it, the controls that follow, the withdrawal that quietly creeps in, and the slow erosion of leaders' capacity that most people don't even notice until it's already advanced. And right near the end, I'll share the deeper shift that helps leaders rebuild trust without becoming soft, passive, or naive. Most leaders do not wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm no longer going to trust my team. It starts much smaller than that. A deadline gets missed. A difficult conversation gets avoided. Someone says one thing in the room and another outside it. A leader gives responsibility, and what comes back is weaker, messier, or slower than expected. So the first feeling is not rage, it's disappointment. And disappointment can be surprisingly powerful because underneath it sits something more tender. I thought I could trust you. Google's Project Aristotle found that what mattered most in team effectiveness was not who was on the team, but how the team worked together, and psychological safety came out as the most important factor. In simple terms, teams work better when people feel safe to speak up, ask for help, and admit mistakes. That matters because the moment disappointment turns into fear, people stop speaking freely. And that is usually where trust begins to unravel. When trust drops, control rises. The leader starts checking more, rewriting more, sitting in on more meetings, asking for more updates, holding more decisions at the top. At first, this may look like responsibility, even admirable, but it changes the emotional climate of the team. People become careful, then they become guarded, then compliant. Psychosynthesis has a beautiful way of putting this. When we relate to other people as objects to control, rather than subjects to meet and understand, we cut off their willingness, their initiative, and their creativity. This is a profound leadership warning. A CEO I walked with offers a very painful but familiar example. In one scenario from his team effectiveness work, one of his managers became increasingly intolerant of mistakes and dismissive of ideas. After he publicly crushed one good idea, ideas dried up, and final proposals lacked creativity and innovation. That's what control does. It may improve short-term order, but it reduces the very thing leaders need from teams in a complex world: honesty, initiative, and thinking. This is a stage often missed because the leader is still present, still in meetings, still making decisions, but they have begun to withdraw psychologically. They stop being curious. They stop listening deeply. They stop sharing as much of themselves. They trust fewer people with real responsibility. They become more alone, more defended, more internally burdened. And this is where leadership capacity starts to erode. Not just team capacity, but leadership capacity. A useful frame here is the 5 dimensions of leadership: self-awareness, awareness of the impact on others, systems awareness, using one's will to decide and act, and the openness to accept help. When trust breaks down, leaders often lose ground across several of these dimensions at once. They become less aware of how they are affecting others, less able to see the wider system, and less willing to ask for help. That's one reason this matters so much. The leader doesn't just lose trust in the team, they begin to lose range. And in a world where employee engagement fell to 15% in 2025, a 10-year low, leaders really cannot afford to create more emotional distance than already exists. Here's the deeper point. When a leader loses trust in the team, it is often not only because the team has failed, it is often also because something inside the leader has been activated. A controlling part, a disappointed part, a perfectionist part, or a wounded part that says, fine, I'll do it myself. Depth coaching pays attention to these inner parts rather than pretending the problem is only operational. Because if the leader is unconscious of what is driving them, that hidden part starts driving the whole system. Psychosynthesis is very clear on this. Our patterns can both protect us and limit us, and real change begins when we become aware of them rather than being run by them. So the vital point I promised you is this. When a leader says, I don't trust my team, the deeper question is often, what has happened to my own trust, my own fears, my own need to control, and my own capacity to stay open? That changes everything, because now we're not just fixing a team, we're restoring a leader. Depth coaching helps by slowing the whole thing down. Not to make excuses, not to lower standards, but to see clearly, to help the leader separate facts from projections. It's to ask, what actually happened? What story am I living by or am I telling? What patterns in me got triggered? What effect am I now having on my team? It helps the leader come back into relationship rather than control. It helps them notice the body tightening, the mind hardening, the emotions narrowing. It helps them work with the gap between the current reality and the deeper potential and find where their will is still available for the next honest step. That's classical psychosynthesis coaching. And often that next step is not huge. It might be one clean conversation, one repaired agreement, one act of delegation, one moment of admitting, I realize I've become harder to work with lately. That kind of honesty doesn't weaken leadership, it deepens it. So, what really happens when a leader loses trust in their team? Disappointment hardens into control. Control turns into withdrawal. And withdrawal slowly reduces the leader's own capacity to lead. But the way back is not blind positivity. It's deeper awareness, better contact, clearer trust, and strong inner leadership. If this speaks to where you are at right now, you can explore my leadership depth coaching at pietropazzi.com and book a 30-minute complimentary exploratory chat through my website or with a link in the description. Thanks so much for being here and for giving this your attention.